everybody, welcome to the 13.4 patch preview. As a reminder to everyone, this will be live in a week. It won't be live now, it will be live in a week. If you guys get tired of me saying that at the start of all these videos, then I remind you, you can always check the comments for all the people who ask, is this live now? Because it's not live now, it'll be live in a week. This is a fairly long one, so I might go over some of these a bit lightly and then actually do a second video on some stuff later. But as always, you can put me on your second monitor, use me as a podcast, just, put me on the TV, watch something on your phone, do any of that stuff. It all works. It's great. So let's talk about this patch. Additional context for a few more complicated changes. Azir is moving power out of early lane and into ER. Riven changes make her better at split pushing, pulled some of the sustain changes for next patch, and nerfs to snowballing of XP and adjustment to support melee versus range. So basically, Riot is nerfing bruisers and top laners again. Why? I don't know. But we'll go into that later. So they pulled some of the nerfs to top laners for next patch. Apparently they're sort of drip feeding it, so people don't notice how much they're nerfing top laners. They did one last patch, then this patch, then the next patch. It's going to be patch after patch after patch of top laner and bruiser nerfs, but whatever. Let's go through it. So patch 13.3. Lot of stuff here we got to go over. So from the top to the bottom, Veigar. He's getting a range boost on his Q and a range boost on his W. So he'll be able to hit you from further away. They'll still be kind of slow, but this will allow him to farm from longer range. This will allow him to whack you from longer range. So overall, yeah, this is actually somewhat of an impactful buff, actually. Not much more to say than that, though. Cho'Gath. Okay, so Cho'Gath, what's going on with Cho'Gath? Cho'Gath is getting his Q mana cost reduced, his Q damage increased at the later ranks, his W mana cost decreased at the later ranks, and his armor growth up. So Cho'Gath will be a little bit tankier as he levels up, just a little bit though, nothing really significant. His mana cost and his Q will go down, so he'll be able to last hit in lane a bit better. Q max will do more, so if you max Q last, it'll do a little bit more damage at level 18. If you max it first against some champions, it'll do a little bit more damage. W mana cost down, so if you max W first to try to fight some sort of range pick, then it will also have a lower mana cost. Overall, pretty good for Cho'Gath. Will this finally be the buff that makes him viable? No, because as they continuously buff Cho'Gath, they are nerfing tanks every patch. Every patch, they're nerfing tanks. We're going to see that with Malphite too, where they keep nerfing tanks every single patch because Riot hates tanks, evidently. And as they continuously buff all the worst performing tanks, they just nerf them again, and then they're just going to have to go ahead and buff them again. Alistar is getting another buff. The passive heal, now that's 6%, so that's to allies. His heal to allies is going up. This is what I was talking about when they actually did this change. Because they nerfed his heal to allies, the issue is Alistar very often in lane can just sit back and do nothing until later on, right? So his passive heal helped him keep his allies' health up as he effectively was kind of forcing them to 1v2, right? He has no like Ash volley. He's not a Zyra, a Lux, anything like that. So his ally will always be poked at by the opposing support. So the only thing he had going for himself was the ability to heal his ally and kind of like stand around and be like, I'm a bull, don't mess with the horns. So they nerfed his healing to allies. Now they're buffing it back up a little bit. So it used to be a flat amount, now it's a percent, but the percent was actually lower than the flat amount that it used to be. So the amount that it healed allies was higher in previous patches. So they're buffing that up a little bit from 6 to 7%. They're also buffing the AP ratios on his Q and his W, which I believe is a really, really, really bad decision. AP Alistar is already not like super popular in solo queue, but it's already like kind of getting popular. Like it's already like, because there's, to be completely honest, there's not much you can do, against it, right? Like he just W spams your champion, and if you're melee, you can't really do much about it because you jump on him in Qs. So, unfortunately, they are buffing the AP ratios on his Q and W again. I'm not sure about this one, right? I don't know where you're going with this one, but this one seems like a poor decision. Ahri is getting her health increased. So she's getting 20 more base HP, 3 more base armor, and the cooldown in her ultimate is going down by flat 10. So Ahri's just going to be tankier and will be able to ult more. I don't know if Ahri is underpowered. I don't know how underpowered she is, but there we go. Ahri tankier, more ults, cool. Malphite is getting the old triple buff, although this is really one buff 3 different times. His W cooldown, that's when he goes, he goes pow, boom. Not like the ground sign where it goes goosh, the one where he goes boosh and he slaps his hands together on you and then he goes boo, boo, and slaps you a bunch for damage, okay? That ability, that cooldown is going down. So from 12 to 10 to 10 to 8. So it'll be 2 seconds lower cooldown at every rank. Then the armor ratio on it is going up by 5%. So the initial damage will be 20% instead of 15, although I think that's the attack armor. Basically, it's going to scale better. It'll do more damage with more armor. The Riot seems to really like Malphite being the anti-physical counterpick, which is great because I love when auto-filled top laners can counterpick me and outperform me. Auto-filled top laners should be able to counterpick you with Malphite and beat you. Yes, that's the thing. Has Riot ever considered maybe just giving him back his magic resist? Because the thing is, Malphite should probably get back his magic resist. A lot of the champions that he's supposed to be countering actually have magic damage in their kit. Yone, Jax, Irelia, Yorick even, they all have magic damage in their kit. So him having lower magic resist actually hurts him a lot. Kennen is not getting his buff because, shockingly, and to Riot's credit, they might have realized that nerfing Doran's shield and buffing Kennen was the dumbest shit you could possibly have done in all human goddamn history. So Riot is not literally making the dumbest decision any human has ever made in our 50,000 years of history. So thank you, Riot. Thank you. Okay. Viego is getting a pretty big buff here. His passive damage can now crit. I think that's his Q passive, but they say P passive for passive, not his Q passive. Champions are complicated these days. You have passives, and then you have your passive for your Q, and then you have your passive on your passive. Not your passive's passive, but the passive of the passive on your Q. Okay, anyway. His R damage ratio is also going up. So his passive damage can crit, I'm assuming that's his Q passive, and his R damage is going to scale a bit better. Instead of 3%, the numbers aren't complicated. R do bigger damage if you build damage. Passive do bigger damage if you crit. Whichever passive they're talking about. I don't know. Aphelios is getting more passive attack speed from his passive stat passive. Aphelios has a passive, and that passive gives him stats, and he can choose those stats based on his... Champions get complicated. Basically, Aphelios will get more attack speed, which is great, because if there was some complaint I had with Aphelios, it's that he wasn't scaling well enough. He just didn't scale well enough. Thank you, Riot, for fixing the scaling on Aphelios. He didn't scale well enough, Riot. Thank you. Senna is getting her attack speed ratio increased. That means the more attack speed Senna builds, she will now get even more attack speed by a considerable sum, from a 0.3 to a 0.4 ratio increase. That's a 33% increase to the amount of attack speed she gets from items. That's a bit questionable. Not gonna lie, Riot. Not gonna lie. Her R cooldown is also going down by 20, which again is a bit sussy. That's a global shield / damage nuke, Riot. Then the amount of damage her ultimate gets is also going up. Which is a bit sussy. The flat damage on the ultimate is going down, but the ratio is going up. Little bit sussy here, not gonna lie. Not really sure. Anytime Riot buffs Senna, she ruins my games for another month until whoever's in charge of the game finally kicks down Senna. I want her kicked down a well permanently, but okay. Riven is getting buffed, but the buffs are actually in a way that I don't really care about. They're actually like buffs that don't make her more cancer. I mean, they make her more cancer, but it's not like giga cancer. Riven doesn't need to be buffed at all, mind you. Like, she doesn't need to be buffed at all. At all, period, at all. But her passive damage, instead of scaling at levels 1, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, will now scale up each individual level. So this will mean that she does more damage at 2, 3, 4, and 5, which I will be honest, I'm not too happy about, because that actually will be a large increase to her level, like 3, 4, and 5 damage. That one is a bad idea, right? I think buffing Riven at all is a stupid thing to do. It's stupid. It's stupid. You are stupid, right? Like, I could show you the stats and how stupid you are. I could make like a stupid list of stupidity. I can make stupid shit that Riot stupidly does, okay? This will be added to the stupid list of stupidity. Now she can also, her passive will now hit turrets for 50% of its damage, which is neat. I guess she can split push better. The split pushing change is a bit sussy. The passive change, I mean, the split pushing change is probably fine. The passive change is stupid. Buffing Riven's damage at all is stupid. And then it is a buff to her damage because, yes, it's not a buff at level 1 and 6 and 9 and 12 and 15 and 18. At literally every other level, it is a buff, yes. So, particularly in the early game, I don't think Riven was struggling for damage. Yeah. And now her passive stacks show under her health bar to Riven only. So I guess Riven players can keep track of it. But I'm going to be blunt. I don't think Riven ever ran out of stacks, right? Like, she could use 900 abilities a second, but she could only attack once. Orianna is getting some of her base armor back from when they giga nerfed her into the ground. So instead of 17 armor, she'll have 20. So instead of a gust of wind obliterating her, a gust of wind will now only 99% obliterate her. There will be a speck, a little bit of her existence will remain after Zed trips on her. Her W mana cost is also going down. So neat. Okay, so now we're getting into nerfs. Brilliant. Oh boy. Okay, so Samira is getting her passive movement speed nerfed really hard. Instead of 3.5% movement speed per stack, it will now be 1, 2, 3, 4%. I'm assuming that means it scales up at like levels, maybe with her ultimate, maybe the rank of her ultimate scales up how much movement speed she gets. Either way, her movement speed throughout the majority of the game is going down. It's only going slightly up in the late game. The amount of lifesteal her ultimate gets is going down. Instead of 66.7% lifesteal, it will only get 50%. Neat, I guess. Jax is getting a complicated change because Riot can't admit he's just overpowered and needs to be flat nerfed. They're trying to do like a no, we're not nerfing him. No, just nerf him, Riot. Just nerf him. Just take his numbers and make them lower. That's what you do. Oh, he's overpowered. Take his numbers and make him lower. You actually want to know how to make him more balanced? And I shit you not, literally undo the rework and he will actually be more balanceable. The rework literally made him less balanceable. So what are they doing? Oh boy. So as of right now, whenever you dodge and you're in Counter-Strike, you do more damage. But the amount of damage is only the base damage of the ability. The AP ratio and the health damage don't scale based on how many times you dodge. They're changing that so the entire Counter-Strike will go up. So instead of 4 to 4% health damage, it will now do 4 to 8% health damage. Yes, you heard me right. That means if Jax now counter-strikes in the middle of a wave, as he's prone to do, and then hits you, he will now actually deal more damage. Because if there's one thing Riot needed to do, it was to give Jax more burst damage early game. Yay. He's losing 20 health at level 1, but he's gaining that health back over his levels for the most part. He's getting 17 health. His health per level is going from 99 to 100. So he'll have 3 less health at level 18, 20 less health at level 1. Kind of a weird change, but whatever. His EAP ratio is going down, but if he stacks it, it's going up. So instead of 100 to 100% AP ratio, then I'll be 7 to 140% AP ratio. Everybody got that? I hope you guys are sticking with me, okay? The amount of damage his ult does on hit is going down. Thank you, Riot. They realized that giga buffing Jax's level 6 burst to where he just leap striked on you, popped ult, and instantly broke your health bar in 2. They said that's probably not intended. Maybe they didn't playtest him at all, even once. So the amount of damage on his ult is going from 80 to 160 to 60 to 160. So 20 less damage at the first rank, 10 less damage at the second rank, which is actually a pretty large nerf. The amount of armor he gets is also going down. Instead of 25 to 65 armor, he will have 15 to 65 armor. So 10 less armor at rank 1, the same armor at rank 3. The amount of MR is also getting down because remember he gets MR based on his armor, blah, blah, blah. But it'll be the same at level 18. So Jax will do more damage and be squishier, which is an interesting choice by Riot Video Games. Maokai is getting a significant nerf. They're finally done with the saplings. They've said no more saplings. Fuck these saplings into the ground. We're done with you. So his Q damage is going up. Instead of 2 to 3% health damage, it will do 2 to 4% health damage. However, his sapling cooldown is going from 10 to 14. That's 14 flat. He cannot get that down. That's at every rank 14. He's the amount of damage the saplings do is also going down by a flat 5. So instead of 110 to 310 damage, they're going to 100 to 300 damage. Because remember, the 5 flat doubles when it's in the super sapling form. Okay. I know this is a long list. Okay, I'm trying to do this the best I can. Okay, the AP ratio is getting butchered. Instead of a 0.35 AP ratio doubled to a 70% AP ratio, it's now a 0.25 AP ratio doubled to a 50% AP ratio. So from a 70% AP ratio to a 50% AP ratio. Then the amount of slow he gets from AP is being butchered into the ground. Instead of a 4% slow per 100 AP, it's a 1% slow per 100 AP. So literally 1/4. The AP ratio of scaling at his E is butchered into the ground. Now he would also slow more based on his HP. That is being slightly increased. I'm assuming they're trying to encourage tank Maokai to be a thing again. So the amount of health he gets, the amount of slow he gets on his saplings is being slightly increased. Instead of every 100 HP increasing the slow by 0.9, 100 HP will increase the slow by 1%. So a little bit of a boost to the amount of slow he gets from actually building health and actually building tank. Elise is finally being nerfed. Her MQ, I think that's melee Q. The melee Q damage is going down by 10 to 30. So this undoes the buff that they did, which then undoes the nerf they did, which undoes the buff they did, which undoes the nerf they did. If I had time, I would edit this in to show you how many times they've patched this ability. We're currently at the down. It'll be up. Okay, if you guys are listening to me, like watch into the future, watch like a year or two from now, this damage will be back. I swear to God it will be. But so currently it does 70 to 210 base damage. It's not going to do 60 to 180 base damage. That's a 10 to 30 nerf on its damage. In addition to that, Spiderling damage is being nerfed in the early game and only slightly buffed in the late game. Early game spiders will go to 8 damage from 10, so that's a 2 damage nerf to spiders early game. Later in the game, they're going to 26 from 25 damage, so a 1 damage buff in the late game. Pretty insignificant, really. Early game nerf on Elise, pretty large early game nerf on Elise. Amumu is getting giga stomped. His health growth is going from 100 to 94, so a 6 drop, 6 less health per level. Riot's returning to Amumu being a low health champion. They're pretty much nerfing all the tanks over here, actually. His armor growth is going from 4.2 to 4, so he will be squishier, and in addition to that, he will be squishier. Then his W damage is also going down. Instead of 1 to 2% health damage, it'll be 1 to 1.6% health damage. So he will do less damage and be squishier. In the late game, that is. Udyr is getting less health per level, from 98 health to 92 health. His base armor is also going down by 3, from 34 armor to 31. The amount of damage he gets on his Q is also going down from 30% to 25% AD on his Q. His R is also going down from a 25 to 40% slow to a 20 to 35% slow, so 5% less slow. So he'll be squishier in the late game, squishier also in the early game, less damage on his Q and less slow on his ultimate. Udyr is getting stomped pretty hard here. Jarvan is getting a little bit of his buff undone. His W shield, instead of being on an 8-second cooldown, will be on a 9-second cooldown. So it's a slight increase to his W cooldown. The AD ratio on his W is also going down from an 80% AD ratio to a 70% AD ratio. Gore Drinker Jarvan, with all its CC and mobility, was being a bit of a bitch. He was healing with the Gore Drinker, then shielding, then shielding, then healing, then shielding, then shielding, then healing. And with all the CC and mobility he had, it was quite difficult to kill this son of a bitch. So, yeah, he's getting a bit of a tap here, like a stop it, you bitch. Stop doing your best Aatrox impression. Although I guess Aatrox doesn't really heal much now anyway. Anivia is getting giga nerfed, right? Is saying, wow, Rod of Ages is here to stay. We like that it's broken as fuck with Archangels, but we better nerf Anivia because it's broken as fuck. So just so we're clear, they've now nerfed Ryze and Anivia and Kassadin because they made Archangels really overpowered. questionable design decisions there, right? Every champion who uses it shockingly is overpowered. I wonder why that could be. Her health growth is going down from 96 health growth to 92. That's 4 less health per level. The amount of armor she gets is also going down to 0.3 less armor per level. Not that much, really, in the grand scheme of things. She's not going to be like that much squishier, but she will be squishier now. And particularly with her egg resetting her health to full in the egg form, this will make it a little bit squishier. Hopefully, it takes her down a bit, and people can actually go back to killing her again. Now, Riot was talking about Azir. Azir will have 100 less mana in the early game, but 150, or was that, no, 160 more mana in the late game. So a big nerf to his early game mana, a big buff to his late game mana. Mana is obviously more useful in the early game, so I would consider that overall a pretty decent nerf. The amount of the cooldown on his W is going up in the early game as well. Instead of a 9 to 6 second cooldown on his Sand Soldiers, it'll be a 10 to 6 second. So he will be able to summon less Sand Soldiers, and they will be on a longer cooldown. The amount of damage he does on his E is that's his gap closer damage. Yeah, his gap closer damage is going up. The AP ratio is going from a 0.4 to a 0.55, and then the damage at rank 5 is going up by 40. So maxing your E and charging into people will do a bit more, actually a lot more damage. Then his ultimate is getting a wait, what? Why would they do this? Well, this is really dumb. Wait, I didn't notice this. This is really dumb. Okay, so his ultimate is going up 25 damage at rank 1, 125 damage at rank 3, and then the AP ratio is going from 0.6 to 0.75. Does Riot realize that Azir is giga stomping people with his ultimate? I don't think this is the nerf Riot thinks it's going to be. Am I reading this wrong? I don't think I am. So his early game is getting a nerf. I'll give you that. Like, he's going to have less Sand Soldiers, less harass. But his E into R combo, like charging into you and then ulting you, is going to do way more damage. He was already insta-giving people with that. This is not intelligent design from Riot. I don't think they know what they're doing with this one. I will be honest. Thresh is getting a champion adjustment. Okay, so what they're doing with Thresh is his W shield will have its cooldown nerfed, so he will get less W's, but the rank 1 of his, so basically the cooldown's going, right now it's 22 to 16, it will now be 21 to 17. So a slightly longer cooldown at rank 5, a slightly lower cooldown at rank 1. They want Thresh to stop maxing shield and spamming his shield on allies. Evidently, a champion constantly pulling allies out of danger indefinitely is considered bad for game health and fun. And Kitty's meowing at me as well. So his Q damage is going up at rank 5, and the AP ratio is going up because fuck you. And then this is a bad idea. The Q cooldown is going down. Now, this cooldown took Riot like 900 years to finally nerf. It took them like the entirety of human existence, okay? Like the Roman Empire was still here and Riot was refusing to nerf this Q cooldown. It's only after they finally nerfed this shit. Okay? So this is a really bad idea. This is a really bad idea from Riot to push this key. So let me explain this to you guys, okay? The problem with Thresh's Q is that how many I want to remember. I'm looking at my other monitor right here. The problem is every time Thresh hits a Q, its cooldown goes down by 3 seconds. So in reality, this Q cooldown at rank 5 going down from 11 to 9 means that it effectively has an 8-second cooldown now. It will have a 6-second cooldown, but it gets worse because the 3 cooldown reduction is flat. Which means if you build a lot of ability haste, the cooldown can go down considerably. Such as with 33% ability haste, meaning, what would that be? 33%, I don't know, like, I think it's like 50. I think 50 ability haste is 33% cooldown reduction. So at 50 ability haste, the cooldown would go from 9 to 6. In other words, every time he hits his Q, it's put on a 3-second cooldown. So you stun someone for 1.5 seconds, then you E them, and then you go back into a Q. Now the problem here, right? The problem here is that that's really, really, really stupid and basically impossible for a large amount of champions to deal with. Champions like Thresh, champions like Ornn literally can't do anything to a Thresh just permanently peeling them out of a team fight. This is a bad decision. You are doing a bad job here, Riot. Bad, Riot. Bad. E damage is going up at the later ranks as well. I think they want people to be maxing his E. It's gaining 20 damage at rank 5. So basically what they're doing to Thresh, they're discouraging people from maxing his shield, and they're encouraging people to max his Q and E again, which is probably... I'm not too sure on this one. I'm going to be honest. I think this is actually overall a really bad idea. I don't think Thresh being an insta-gib champion again is a solid play that they think it is. Okay. So the support mage items are being nerfed. Their mana regen is being nerfed. So both support mage items will give less mana regen, and the cooldown on gaining the gold from hitting people with them is going up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to explain this. Basically, supports will generate less mana if they are mages. Okay, so this is the change right here. This is the one I'm not... Oh, I forgot to mention, the actual tank support items have more health regen. So the mage support items have less mana regen, and the tank support items have more health regen. I don't know if this is overall a good thing, considering that bot lane is already kind of shifting into tank supports anyway, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure tank supports are really that good for the game. We already have some tank supports that are starting to massively overperform, like Nautilus, like Thresh. Pyke is already doing really good again, so I'm not quite sure about this one, right? Rakan is already pretty broken. Rakan definitely will need to be nerfed. Most of his buffs will probably need to be undone. Nautilus is clearly overpowered. Yeah, so I think Riot is really fucking up with this one. I think they're overcompensating. I think the meta already has tank supports doing well. Nerfing all the mages and buffing all the tanks by default, all of them across the board, not just the weak ones, but all of them. This seems like a very poor decision. Okay. Now this is a larger change. Okay. So basically I'm probably going to have to make a video talking about this because this is a bit complicated. And to give my opinion on it, I'll probably need to do another video, but given lightly, levels 1 through 10, I should say at levels 3 to 9. At levels 3 to 9, killing people will give less experience. In addition, you no longer generate bonus experience for killing someone you're only 1 level down on. So if they're level 3 and you're level 2, you don't generate bonus experience. If they're level 6 and you're level 5, you don't generate bonus experience. In addition, the amount of bonus experience you get for killing someone has gone down, even if you're down 2 or 3 levels. It about equalizes if you're down 4 levels on them, but basically less experience for killing people, less experience for killing people that outlevel you. I'm assuming this is trying to hit junglers so that level 3 junglers can't just spam gank and then generate a shitload of XP because technically they're behind. Unfortunately, Riot is kind of fucking up the entire game's balance. I don't know if I entirely disagree with these changes though, but I'm probably gonna do a whole video talking about this because I do think the game is way too snowbally right now, and this is a decent change in it. Treasure Hunter, that's the bonus gold generation from the red tree, that's being nerfed. Instead of 550 total gold for killing all 5 people, you now get 450 gold for killing all 5 people. So Treasure Hunter and Treasure Hunter is going to be nerfed. So junglers running around the map killing people or at least getting assists on people will have less gold. Demonic Embrace now has a cap on damage against monsters. It didn't used to have a cap. That allowed Demonic Embrace to do a shitload of damage to the jungle, way more than Riot intended, and they have only just now noticed that, holy crap, wait, Demonic Embrace was obliterating the jungle. So now has a cap of 40. 40 might be a little bit too small, but I think Riot is trying to overcompensate right now because certain junglers like Maokai were obliterating things like Dragon way more than they should have been. And I think they're trying to curb stomp Maokai into the ground. The issue is with the nerfs to Zac. You know what? Let me look this up because I'm curious. Yeah, Zac is already doing poorly. So nerfing Demonic Embrace clear speed on Zac is already slightly underperforming. I'm not sure about this one. The 40 is a bit small. Then, okay, so jungle is being buffed for some fucking reason. I don't know. I don't know. I do not understand it. The amount of heal you get for killing a jungle camp is going from 25 to 30 baseline. Then Gromp is losing 150 HP. So Gromp will be easier to kill. You'll get more health for killing the jungle. Reft Herald no longer has a soft reset state. I don't quite understand that 100% myself. And then the AP ratio for the companion, that's your pet. So the amount of damage the pet does to the jungle is going from 15% AP to 12%. So all AP junglers across the board are being nerfed, which I think AP junglers overall were overperforming, but this kind of feels like a weird sweeping nerf. Like I don't think literally every AP jungler was overperforming. So this is one of those things where Brad's just sort of screwing up the balance for no reason that I really can think of. Then, talking about Brad screwing up the balance, I'll probably have to make a video on this one too. Doran's shield is going from base health regen 6 to base health regen 4. For those of you who obviously are sitting here going, wait, what? This will completely fuck up the balance of the game. Yep, I'm probably going to make a video talking about this because I will just go on. This is possibly the dumbest fucking thing Riot could do. Just to show you guys, I'm just going to show you guys an example on one champion. This is just one. I'm not talking about every champion. I'm saying one champion that Riot has continuously buffed over and 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 over. Just trying to force this champion to be viable. And, you know, I'm trying to find it here. It's okay. Hold on. There we go. Kennen. Now, I think a lot of people haven't noticed that since Doran's Shield and Second Wind have gotten more popular, the amount of buffs that these ranged harassing champions have gotten to try to keep pace with Doran's Shield and Second Wind, these are not a small amount of buffs. So since I think it's about Season 9, Doran's Shield and Second Wind started to be popular, let's actually look at this, okay? The bonus attack speed on Lightning Rush went up. The on-hit AP ratio and the base damage on his W went up. His Q damage went up. Here his Q damage was reduced slightly, but overall it still, yes, went up. The other damage on his W went, you guessed it, up. The damage on his ultimate went, you guessed it, up. His W damage went, once again, you guessed it, up. How many buffs was that? Was that 5 different damage buffs? So since Second Wind and Doran's Shield has started to be used, Riot has buffed Kennen's damage 5 different times. Going back now and nerfing Doran's Shield, let me show you another champion. And I'll probably make a video more in depth on this, but let me show you another champion, Teemo. Let's go back, let's look at since Season 9, how much damage has Teemo gotten? So the amount of traps he could get was moved up. The oh boy, the on hit on his E went up. So more shrooms, more damage on his E. The attack speed on his passive went up. He gets more move quicks, so he gets more movement speeds to escape from stuff. The on hit from his E went up again. The cooldown on his blinding dart went down. The duration on his blinding dart went up. The amount of AP on his traps went up. The amount of mana on his traps went down. That's what, 3-4 different buffs to Teemo here, including the monstrous buff to his blind. What am I saying here? Riot, I could go into every one of these champions. Riot is continuously buffed every single ranged harasser in the game to match Doran's Shield Second Wind. Basically, they built these champions on top of the idea that if you're fighting them, that if you see a Teemo, you will go Doran's Shield Second Wind to hold down his damage. They only buffed his damage because you go Doran's Shield Second Wind. nerfing Second Wind earlier, and now nerfing Doran Shield, I don't think Riot fully understands the implications of this. Balance is like a game of chess. You can't just move your pawn forward and not expect the opponent to do something, okay? They're fucking up here, and the response is going to be that these ranged champions who've been overbuffed to compensate for Doran Shield Second Wind, these champions will now have way more damage than they need to deal with these things. Fucking up base level 1 items is a terrible, terrible decision. And I don't think they're fully realizing even what they're doing. It is such an unbelievably bad idea. This is something that's been in the game for 4 years now. It's been unchanged in the game for 4 years. Every decision for 4 years has been made on the idea that there's a Doran Shield healing 6 health every 5 seconds. Now a Doran Shield healing 4 health every 5 seconds fucks up the balance of the early game completely. So that's the upcoming changes. I'll probably have to make some videos over the next few days going more in depth into some of this stuff. But for now, there we go. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Special shout out to my Patreon supporters. I appreciate you guys a lot. Special shout out to my YouTube members. Thank you guys a lot. If you like these videos and you want more of them, make sure to subscribe to me on Patreon. It helps me out a lot. Because remember, YouTube revenue is a bit sketchy sometimes, so it always helps me to have a steady income. If you like this and you want this to continue, support me on Patreon. For everyone else, just leave a comment on your thoughts on any of this stuff, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everybody.